New York City now in its third phase of reopening, but still no indoor dining. NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins me now from New York City. And Gabe, you can see it behind you. You're in a restaurant on a block full of restaurants. We New Yorkers love eating al fresco in the summer, and for right now, that is the only option. But this has really been tough on the city's restaurants.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Allison. It is a little warm outside today, but yes, it has been great the last few weeks to be able to eat outside after so many months being cooped up. But for these restaurants, it has been difficult. And as you mentioned, we're now at phase 3 of reopening here in New York, but indoor dining is not allowed. Still, restaurants here. We're here in Lincoln Square. We are Restaurant Row, not too far from here, a little earlier this morning. Restaurants have been dealing about making, this restaurant here, the Smith, I'm sure you probably know it, has several locations here in Manhattan. It's operating about 30% of its business. Some of the smaller restaurants, mom and pop restaurants we've been speaking with, they only have space in front of their restaurants for, maybe 2, 3, 4 tables, and that's not really sustainable long term. So a lot of questions about how long this will go. But yes, restaurants are adapting to this new normal, so to speak, as New York City begins to reopen, Alice.
Gabe, all you had to say was Lincoln Square, and my first thought was he's got to be at the Smith. It's everybody's favorite over there. I've been dreaming about that mac and cheese since I left New York City. What is opening up today, then, as part of phase? What is opening up in New York as part of phase 3? We know indoor dining is still off limits, but what's open, what's closed still?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Besides the mac and cheese, also the brunch here is stellar. However, when it comes to reopening phase 3 here in New York City, tattoo parlors and nail salons, as well as massage businesses, are reopening as part of phase 3. You recall that phase 2 meant that restaurants would be opening with outdoor dining. As we mentioned, phase 1, several weeks ago, that was construction and some other of the initial businesses that started to reopen. So, Allison, this has been a progression here in New York State. We should point out that much of the rest of the state is already moving on to phase 4. You recall that Governor Cuomo instituted this policy where every 2 weeks they would see the number of cases and whether it was going up or not, and that was the valve, so to speak, that he would use in order to reopen parts of the state. Phase 3 was expected to include indoor dining here in New York City, but several days ago, the governor and Mayor de Blasio announced that indoor dining would not be happening. And Allison, that is because we continue to learn more about this virus, and there are many concerns that it spreads more easily indoors. Several hundred scientists, in fact, from 32 countries are now signing an open letter to the WHO urging the agency to kind of revise its guidelines and make it more clear that the virus is spread indoors. And so that led to the decision here, that idea that this virus could spread so much more easily indoors, that led to authorities in New York, especially New York City with its dense population, to kind of put that on hold. Right now, no timetable on when indoor dining might come back here in New York City, Allison.
Gabe, let's talk New Jersey for a second. Governor Murphy saying today that the transmission rate there is above 1 for the first time in weeks. What does that mean for New Jersey and the tri-state area?
Well, you recall that transmission rate. That was also a big deal several months ago here in New York. Governor Cuomo saying anything about a 1.2 or so was the danger zone, so to speak. Basically, that means that every time that somebody is infected with the coronavirus, they infect a certain number of people. If it's anything less than one other person, that's viewed as, okay, you're containing the spread of this virus. Anything above 1, and when you start to get into 2, even 3 people, then you really have this thing starting to spiral out of control. In New Jersey, with the governor saying, look, this is getting a little dangerous. We're now up above 1 or so, around that 1 area, and that could lead in the future to them perhaps taking a step back when it comes to reopening. They're watching it very closely in New Jersey, and what they do say is that now they have people coming from other parts of the country. There were reports of a wedding in the Carolinas. People traveled there, came back to New Jersey, and that was a hot spot. Well, what states like New Jersey and others throughout the Northeast that have, in their view, gotten through the worst of the outbreak, what they're trying to prevent is to take a step backwards. So they're really trying to double down on contact tracing and also the other restrictions in place to make sure that this virus, after flattening the curve, that it doesn't come into a second wave. They're also concerned about other parts of the country that are starting to see these spikes. And that is why Governor Cuomo, of course, is now saying that anybody who comes here from those hotspot states, including Florida, Arizona, California, Texas, has to quarantine for 14 days once they get back to New York. But yes, New Jersey seeing a very small uptick. The governor saying it's something to keep an eye on in case things go in the wrong direction, Allison.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.